forgotten. This is Harbor Town. Harbor Town is an all-new series from Miniature Building Authority, the leader in tabletop gaming scenery. Unique, flexible, and playable, Harbor Town will take your games to a new destination.
That's good, Naz. Hey, at least we all have a sense of humor here. Hey, sometimes things happen. As you can see, I got some big symbols in the place of where I normally have a guest on a Sunday night. But tonight, for as of now, I'm going solo. And I could hop on maybe at any time. We'll see. But if that doesn't happen, I think I can handle it. We've done Gabbins by myself before. Just needs. I'll be asking a lot. I just need a little more participation from the audience with some more questions and some more comments. But got some fun stuff tonight, man. So I'm glad you got on. I see Tom's on. I see Naz is on. I see we got a couple others of our regulars on there. So that's cool. And we'll just run with it, man. It's not a big deal. And I'm J.K. Lord Gazumba, and having a blast of everything that's been going on the last couple months. Hopefully you're enjoying our Thursday night games. I'm having a blast with them. I know Tom's having a blast with them, and a lot of my players are having fun. And we're going to continue that this week with these new firsts, and it's going so well. Had a lot of things in the positive trend. It just today with lining up the guest had some technical issues, but hey, that's okay. But next week we're supposed to have our DMs roundtable, and it's either 6 or 7 DMs right now. I got myself. I got Mark. Brian is 50-50. He's the one. Anna's 100%. Ian from Frassetti's 100%, and Will from Return to the Bandit Kings was 100%. So we should have either 6 or 7. And I have another one. I have an invitation out there too. You guys all know him, but I won't announce. Everyone knows him. He's a regular watcher of our show. He's a big DM, European. That's all I'll say. I'm trying to get him. He's going to give me a commitment tomorrow or Tuesday if he can make it, and if not, I may ask 1 or 2 other individuals. But figure 7 would be a nice number, so we'll see. So the Paladin, we all love the Paladin, don't we? I love Paladins. The coolest, what is when I was a kid, when we were talking about like ancient history. Back in the day, you got the player's handbook. Even in the basic, it was like, what is a? We didn't even pronounce it right. We called it Paladin or whatever. We didn't even know how to pronounce it back then. Paladin. I mean, it's just a great name and a great class. And I'm going to pretend Mark is somewhere around here as an NPC of mine, so that maybe I'll be talking to myself, kind of like when Clint Eastwood did that bit at the convention when he was talking to himself. But I'm not that crazy yet. But the Paladin's really going through an evolution with us, and Rox, hey, thanks for coming on. Like I said, I need input from the audience tonight with no guests right now. Fan hops on, great. But man, give me some input and stuff. I'll run with it. So thanks a lot. Rox, I think I'm going to give you some options tonight. And I know you've been really big on the classes, and you've been asking for info, and you've been like a sponge. I'm going to give you tonight 2 subclasses of Paladins. You don't have to be lawful good. So and you can have fun with those. So sit tight. We're going to have some fun with that, and I think you're going to be very excited about those. So, and that's a cool thing. When the Paladin first came out, you're like, oh my God, lawful good, human only, very strict, very stringent. And I don't know if that's the way it was meant to be with them. They do have their limitations. It doesn't seem to be a problem in our campaign. And if we look back when we first started, a lot of the key characters in the early 80s were Paladins. I mean, one of my best friends, Tim, who's only been on a couple shows, but I've talked about him all the time. He had Sir Florimond, and this is in the Monty Hall days, and the character was like 20th level, and it was just like he was a prototypical Paladin. He just did all the Paladinly things, and he got killed in a big fight. Really a Monty Hall fight back then. We talked about it before, where Tim's other character, Skeeve, actually imprisoned, put Makarash, was one of our anti-hero antithesis that we fought into imprisoned him, and that's the one he died off. And but that was such a long time ago. I think we're talking like 1981 that happened. So, but when they first came out, you're like, and if we look here on our list here, you'll notice this anomaly, and I want to point this out. Okay, there's Paladin right here in our class list, and there's Paladin again in our class list. So we have Paladin down twice, and you're like, well, what the hell's that all about? That's a good question. You notice there's a Paladin fighter and there's a Paladin cavalier. So we'll talk about why that happens and why we kept it that way. Because a lot of people are like, oh, well, why do you want to have two Paladin subclasses? Well, yes, the Monty Hall days. And we all remember the Monty Hall days. I mean, everyone goes through a Monty Hall phase where you really don't know what you're doing. And you got these super high-level characters, and you're fighting the Tarrasque every other week, and you're fighting all these ancient dragons, you're fighting demon lords, and stuff. And then it's like, well, what do you do after that, It's kind of like being a Q in Star Trek. What do I do next? And, everyone goes through that. We went through that when I was, in 1979, 1980, and 81, when I was 13, 14 years old. So it was such a long time ago. But when this first came out, and we go to this book, of course, our player's handbook here, has in the book, it has some great things about the Paladin. And here's the table. Starts out, and I highlighted some abilities here, and I'll go over them, right? And so your Paladin, some things that, they always get. They get Detect Evil at will, which can always be abused, but, it's like something that's like, I always say it's something that really is hard to hide you're doing. And they get Detect Evil at 60 foot. They get +2 on all their saves, so immediately their saves are a whole 10% better than a fighter, or a ranger, or an archer, or any other fighter subclass. They're immune to all forms of disease, which is crazy when you think about it, but they're immune to everything. And that does not include mummy rot, and I'll tell you why. Mummy rot's a curse. Mummy rot's not a disease, because cure disease is not. So it's a good way to throw off something that's a Paladin for all you evil DMs out there. Just remember that. Mummy rot is a curse, not a disease. You need to remove curse to stop that. So a little trick there I'll give you. They lay on hands ability is cool. So there's ways to enhance that. We've done that with bracers of healing and gauntlets of healing. So like instead of them getting double their level, they get triple their level. We've done all sorts of things with that. So the Paladin is really it's a heal. He's someone who can heal in a pinch. I'll tell you about some of the changes that we did as we go into this, and they can cure one disease a week up to 5th level, and they get more just by touch. And they emanate protection from evil in a 10-foot radius. Now, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, we made a change to that. Even in first edition, we made it personal. That's a terrible handwriting, but we made it personal only on that. We thought that was a little too much. So they have their innate protection from evil ability. So that gives them +2 on saves and -2 for evil creatures to hit them, and it's still even pretty nasty when you think about it. So we took away the area effect on that. Spell level is at 9th level for a standard old school Paladin. I mean, that just we've tinkered around with that and changed that as well. And when we get to the changeover, we'll talk about that as well. Why we did that. They can turn undead at 2 levels worse than a cleric. Now, here's something a lot of people don't even know. If you look at that table, there's little letters in the first edition up on the table, like at high levels. And technically, evil clerics can turn paladins. Now, they can't destroy them, but they have the ability to actually turn paladins to fear, just like good clerics have the ability to turn undead. And a lot of people don't even realize that. If you look on your first edition table, on your turn undead table, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I never even noticed that. So I don't use it. I've used it sometimes because the level imbalance is a little different. Than it's like turning almost vampires and liches on that level, but you still can turn a paladin with an evil priest. So it's kind of a cool thing when you think about it. But they can call their warhorse at 4th level, which we allow that, no problem at all. Now here's the one in this list here. This one is the one that's kind of really had a bit of confusion to it. And it says, number 9, if your paladin has a holy sword, and then it goes in parentheses, a special magic sword which your referee is aware of and will explain to you if the need arises. Very completely, just doesn't say anything. So, and we're talking about Holy Avengers and things like that. So we kind of like, what does that mean? We don't have them dispelling magic at will, but we have a class that actually can do something like that, and we'll talk about that. So that was just like, don't understand what that means in the player's handbook. And there's a lot of those old anomalies, and that's one of them. And some of the negatives, they can only keep 10 weapons. And we hold that. Now, we don't count potions in that because it's just, we don't believe that a healing potion should be part of that equation. And we do 10 total, so that if they have 5 weapons and then 3 other, we don't go 1, 1, 4, 4. But we do 10 total with an old school fighter paladin, absolutely. And they have to tithe 10%. We absolutely do that as well. And we like them to be humble, but that's where the issue came out in 1980 and 83, and that's when we're like, what they've done makes absolutely no sense. They've turned it into a humble class, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then Paladin will have henchmen of lawful good alignment only. Okay, that makes kind of sense. And a former alliance with lawful good characters. Does that make sense for the cause of good? I don't know. But and the table's a nasty table to go up on. 2750 experience to go up to second. 2751. It's not an easy class to go up. It takes a long time. So the original fighter paladin, though, was a cool class, and we had it, and then we're like, out came Dragon 72, and we talked about this with the damage dealers discussion. Right here. Okay, the Cavalier comes out. And if you look at the Cavalier article, it says something really bizarre in it. Well, not really bizarre, but like Chevauche Cavalier, here it is, okay? This is pre-Unearthed Arcana. This was kind of like a prelude to what the Unearthed Arcana was going to do with new classes, and we were all excited about it. Like I said, this was kind of like the, I felt like I got ripped apart, like watching Highlander 2: The Quickening, when I was so excited about going to see a sequel to Highlander, and then this came out, and then Unearthed Arcana came out, and I was like, oh my god, what did they do to this? And here's the line right here. It's like 3 or 4 paragraphs in this article under Cavalier Paladins. The especially dedicated Cavaliers and the fact that Cavalier Paladin, all the rules and guidelines pertaining to Cavalier subclass apply. You get 6 magic weapons instead, so you get 12 weapons with this class, with the Cavalier Paladin. Spells are never gained, so that's something we were like, do we want to keep that? Followers are attracted as any Cavalier. They must remain lawful good, and they must be lawful good and remain so. That is it. It's like literally 7 lines of script in here. So we're thinking to ourselves, well, okay, they made it so, okay, you can become a Cavalier Paladin as well, right? And then that's not too bad. That's not a big deal. We can live with that. And then out comes our favorite book, and it was a great book, but it just had 1 or 2 really crazy things in it. Our Unearthed Arcana book. And Unearthed Arcana has goes the exact, a completely separate direction. Right here. And Unearthed Arcana states something completely different. And that is the following. The Paladin is no longer considered a subclass of the fighter, but is a subclass of the Cavalier. Now, cool, this wouldn't be an issue if we hadn't been playing since 1979-80 and we got all these fighter paladins running around, and a fair number of them. I went through my notes here, and like Marco, he's got David Gradavis, and we all know who David Gradavis is, and his uncle Railston Gradavis. They're all old school paladin fighters. there's a lot of them, and I'm thinking, do we got to change all these guys over to Cavaliers? It was just bizarre. It just didn't make sense what they did. Why? And there was no explanation for why they did it. And if you read through the Cavalier class, it's like the Cavaliers, like from from noble background, and kind of tends to be a feat snob when you look at it, right? As a class, and it's going to turn your humble, old school fighter paladins into something that they're not, and as a Cavalier paladin, and it's just like we didn't know what to do for a while, because we were like, oh, these are the rules, you know. And then when this Arthur Kamen came out with this awful Cavalier changeover from the Dragon 72 article, it was so disappointing. It was terrible. So we started running, and like at this time in '83, my first Winchester NPC showed up. First was Elijah Winchester, the third, and Elijah Winchester the second, his father. Then Emerson Winchester III came. He was the one who fell, the fallen paladin. He's currently dead. And then Andrea Winchester, and that was, we're at her keep now through our adventures on Thursday nights. Winchester's bulwark. She's third in command of the Order of Ulick. And then Elaine Winchester, and they're all cousins. And they all start out as Cavalier paladins. And they were all from, like, the Winchesters are from a noble family in Keeland, so it kind of made sense. We just hated the Art Arcana version of it, of the Cavalier and the Cavalier Paladin. So Walt, who had Britomart, he had a high, and she wasn't a Paladin, but she was a Cavalier. Said, well, why don't we make this Cavalier like the Eastern Cavalier? Like we'll say this is from the Great Kingdoms and Sundi and Iron Gate. This is that version because she was from over that side of the map, right? We'll use this. So we'll have different Cavaliers. I said, all right, that's just going to be a bit of a mess, but we'll try it. And the more we did that, the more we're like, this article's so 1,000 times better than the stupid book, right? So let's just, and I don't even know the date that this happened. So we just started converting all of them back to this article, all right? Now, what happened with the fighter paladins? They stopped being played for a while. And why that was the specialization rules were for fighters and for rangers, because there was no fighter paladin in the Arcana book, so that didn't make sense again. And we're like, well, no one's going to play, so they can't get +1 hit +2 damage with a weapon. No one's going to play a fighter paladin, so we got to make some changes. So we instituted, and this is over, I'm telling you, this is over 10 to 15 years this all happened. I'm really putting this tightly together. But we just decided it didn't make sense in our campaign to have all of the Cavalier Paladins be the only Paladin in the campaign. It just didn't make sense, because if you know Mark's characters, both David and Railstone Gravis, they're from very humble backgrounds. So please, guys, like I said, thanks a lot for everyone jumping on. If you have any questions, I'm running solo right now because Anna got stuck at LAX and Los Angeles. So, and Anna was going to be my guest tonight. We're going to talk about some other 3.5 and 5th edition paladins and stuff, but she may get on still if she gets home on time. But please feel free to ask questions, any comments. I'll respond, get a little interaction with the audience here. So we made a decision at a point, and I'm glad we did, and thank you everyone for hopping on, with the Paladin, was to do this. There's no rule that says we can't have it as a subclass of both. So that's what we did. We decided we're going to make we're going to tweak it a little bit. We're going to make a couple changes to both the Cavalier, and we're not going to use the Arcana Cavalier at all anymore. We're getting rid of it. So we're going to go with the Dragon 72 Cavalier and make that the Cavalier, a Paladin subclass of Cavalier. And we're going to go back to the old school great Player's Handbook Paladin, because there's nothing wrong with it. And both will exist in the campaign. And I'm really glad we did that. And I'll tell you why. Because you can have a cavalier from a noble family. You can have, in fact, there's one little weird anomaly is that cavalier paladins can actually be half elven. A lot of people don't know that, but that was allowed in the rules that you could be human or half elven. So you can have paladins that are not strictly 100% human, and that's the only way, a cavalier version of a paladin. So you can have them from like nobility and Selene, a half elven version. You can have from the Great Kingdom. So exactly, Geek Dice, exactly. And that is the cool thing, man. Thank you for bringing that up. Different origins, different paladins. Yes. So it just made sense for us. I mean, our game has developed to such a large extent. We've as you can see by the class list here. I mean, you're talking like 30-some classes that we have in 1E2E. With all sorts of subsets and stuff, and you got your priest here especially, but there's 30 of those or whatever, so there's a whole bunch, but it doesn't matter. We can do it in our game. It doesn't matter if other people have problem. What do you have 2 paladins for? So here's some differences. Okay, this is what we decided on. See if you guys think it's cool or not. So the fighter paladin gets 2 weapon specialization slots. Just like, hey, Frankie, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. And I forgot, you know what? I'll let yours go off. And I forgot to do a little maintenance here. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Hopefully you found us out from Facebook or from one of the sites. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Here we go. I got to do one maintenance here, and that's someone. This will get us up to 458. Thank you once again. So that'll take care of our general maintenance on new followers from between Thursday and now. So we really appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Having a blast. And like I said, ask me questions anytime you want. Like Rox is done. If you want, I am not one to hide my stuff now that we're out. It's been 39 years, and we're now out in the open and doing this. I will share any of my data with anyone because I want... Thanks, man. Things are going good. So, like I said, if you want some data, you want some information, you want some rules, Rox is taking advantage of it, please do ask. I mean, just as long as you know, just tell people where it came from and where you got it. And you want to modify it from there, that's great. But just as long as you just give us credit for it, that's ours, and that you're modifying it to your use, that's fine, man. Like I said, 1E, 2E, old school. You got old schoolers. I mean, and 5 years as well. Naz is a huge 5E player, and he listens, and I appreciate so much. You get a flavor for where the game started and the base. Hey, Jeff. Thanks for hopping on, man. You really get... Yeah, Anna's in the wind and stuck at LAX, so hopefully she'll be home and hop on. You get a flavor for where the game evolved and started, and that may help you with your 5e play even, And like I always want to learn about 5e just to see if there's something I can incorporate in as well. So that's why DM Shane and I go back and forth on some stuff and we talk about things. And next week we're going to be talking about a lot of other things because we're going to have our DM roundtable next Sunday. So we'll talk about that under announcements at the end. So here's a couple things we did between the 2 paladins. Fighter paladin, 2 specialization slots. In our game, straight fighters get 3, which can be a double and a single, 3 singles, whatever they want to use in their specializations. So a fighter can take a double specialization in a non-polearm or 2-handed sword. So they can double specialize in battle axe, long sword, whatever. They can specialize in a missile weapon as well. But they don't get, like, if they specialize in bow, they get some pluses to hit, but they don't get 3 hours around. That's reserved to archers. Rangers and paladins get 2 weapon specialization slots. No doubles. They can take a single and a missile and a single and a weapon, or 2 singles and weapons, whatever they want. It's +1 hit, +2 damage. They do not get multiple weapon attacks from the specialization. So at 7th level, they get 3 every 2. They're not hacking machines. Cavalier Paladins are a little different. Cavalier Paladins are based on that Cavalier archetype. They get weapon specialization. They get multiple attacks on it. A little different fighting style, but they get a lot less of the abilities that the Fighter Paladin gets. Some things. Here's a big thing. Okay. This is our spell list. Oh, Frankie, thanks. And please watch some of the shows and catch us on Thursday nights and catch Mark's group on every other Monday. He's not on this Monday, but he's on the Monday after. We have 2 DMs running. Basically, we run 3 games every 2 weeks right now. I run every Thursday, and he runs every other Monday. But we're hardcore 1E, 2E tabletop miniature style, and that's the way we play. And, man, we just go to town with terrain and setups. So please feel free to hop on, ask questions. Bill the Master Crafter had a kid's birthday party he had to go to tonight, so he's not here on either. So I'm missing Marco, I'm missing Bill, missing Anna Meyer, missing all my other guys. They're all had things to do. So, but this spell list starts at level 4. We gave them wisdom bonus like a cleric as well. So at level 4, if you have even 14 wisdom, you're going to start with 3 spells for your wisdom bonus. These zeros indicate when you go up that you don't get any spells, but if you have a wisdom bonus in that area, you'll still get a spell. So at 5th level, if you have a 15 wisdom, you'll have a 2nd level spell. Or in a 16 wisdom, you'll have 2 of those off the 0. So this is 4th level. They get spell capability for clerical. Another enhancement. Yes, absolutely. Another enhancement. If they worship a priest that's on our specialty priest approved list. So Mayhem, Palor, Ilmater, Heronius. They have access to the spell list from a specialty priest. A little more flavor we wanted to add into them. So there's some great spells in that, and so they can access those spells. They don't get any of the specialty priest abilities. They just can access their spell list. So that'll add a little more flavor into the campaign. Now, we've never talked about Rangers. We haven't had a discussion on them yet, but Rangers do the same thing with Druids because we have specialty Druid lists. So we have Alana. We have, there's 4 of them. Alana, Rolthane Ralphil, Serenos, and the Master of the Hunt, which is the guy with the horns, which we ripped off Malar from Forgotten Realms to do that. So the same thing goes with Rangers. But with Paladins, there's 30-some specialty priests written up. And we're talking about good deities, so they will get access to those spells. So, sure, Rox, absolutely. I'll get you a whole bunch of stuff, man. Absolutely. Thank you for requesting, man. I really, really appreciate your interest. Yeah, so this spell list gives them an advantage over the Cavalier Paladin right there. Cavalier Paladins tend to have some heavy armor, plate mail, full plate, field plate. So another thing we did, they don't have the innate protection from evil ability that the Fighter Paladin has. So if the Fighter Paladin has a Hobgoblin swinging at him, the Hobgoblin's -2 to hit, right? Including armor class and all that. Cavalier Paladin does not have that ability. So that's another big difference between the Cavalier Paladin and the Fighter Paladin. So another cool thing. The Cavalier Paladin will get spells just like they did on the old table in the Player's Handbook at 9th. So it's very limited, and they just base cleric spells. So basically taking Cure Light Wounds, Bless maybe, Resist Fire, Resist Cold. They're not taking a lot of variation on their spells. So because they're all about the combat. They're about the background. They're all fighting. They have lances. They're on horseback. You get the idea. This gives us a huge flavor difference and a background difference, as Geek Dice said, on where your Cavalier Paladin's coming from and where your Fighter Paladin's coming from. And I think that's really cool in our campaign. And you'll notice the difference in classes. You'll notice the difference with who's playing, which is and their play style. And I think it adds a cool flavor to our campaign. And that's what, it's not all about the hack and slash with us. I mean, there's a lot of combat with our miniatures, but, we like to develop the background and the characters. The irony of this new group, there's 18 new characters, and there's no Paladins or Cavalier Paladins in the entire group. But there is a subclass of Paladin. So we will discuss that shortly. Cavalier Paladins can increase their stats just like a Cavalier can, in strength, dex, con, and charisma. So they get 4 that they increase in. But we start them at /50 max. So if say they have 16 dex and he rolls 75 on the dice to start off at, we start switching /50. So they're only going up about a point over, because they only get that till 10th level when they get hit dice. So they're not getting a lot of enhancement on points, maybe 1 at the most. That's another difference between the Cavalier Paladin and the Fighter Paladin. Normally I'd have my alter ego here saying what I had missed here. So, some key I've talked about a couple of them. Some key in our campaign. I talk about all the Winchesters. Ashley Winchester, Andrea's younger sister. She got married finally to David Gradavis, who's Mark's character, who's one of the three oligarchs running the Shilllands now. He's running with Katarina Walworth and Valderessa Sharn, if you know those names. Well, From the Ashes killed off Valderessa Sharn. We did not. So there's about 6 people in From the Ashes that they killed off that we did not. We said that doesn't make sense. We want to use these characters over, like Grimly Fisher, one of the best characters in the entire box set, Greyhawk City box set with his rubber chickens and all. I mean, so, for example. So, David and Railstone Gravis are fighter paladins, and they're both dual class. If you've seen our Thursday nights, and Gilgalad has just come in. He's a fighter paladin, and then he went to magic user, he dual classed. And so he was like ninth level paladin and now 11th level magic user, and he's training. He's here setting up a study in Andrea's Keep. He's going to train them. He's like 60 years old as a human, so he's been around. He's been around since like 1980, 81. That's how old that character is. But he's an old school fighter paladin in the campaign. Some other fighter paladins. Emerson Winchester IV. Now, I told you about Emerson Winchester III, fallen paladin. Became a cavalier and, had a lot of issues in his life. He got corrupted by a group called the Amazons of the Crimson Moon. In an adventure before we were streaming, he saves his old best friend's life, David Gradavis' life, in an adventure we did. But he got killed during it, and died permanently. And so he kind of redeemed himself, but he still, he died not a Cavalier Paladin. His son, Emerson Winchester IV, is a fighter paladin. He did not want to go down the same realm that his father did. So he's an 8th level fighter paladin. He's in the group, the Reborn. And I'm going to be using them shortly as well, because they will be adventuring out. They're going to do one adventure at Winchester's Bulwark a little bit higher. That way we're not doing all lows. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to go off the lows, do a high one, and go back to the lows to kind of break it up a little bit. So you may see Emerson on that one. Some other paladins of high level, Herbie the White, who the White Tower, his keep is just north of Andrea's in the Principality of Ulick. That's Alan's character, brought up from first level, 13th level Cavalier Paladin. Never had great stats, but was always more of a humble Cavalier Paladin, an exception. But he's old too, and so he's his keep, the White Tower, because he's the character who's painted in all white. Back in the days when we didn't know what we were doing, enamel paint, he called Herbie the Dipped. It looked like he got dipped in the white enamel paint. We put a red cross on it. It's the old fighter box set figures, if you understand what I'm talking about. That paladin with a cross on the front, that's him. Yeah. So if you know that set. A couple others. King Thrommel. So if you ever played Temple of Elemental Evil, the story goes this. Yeah, the Dipped. Herbie the Dipped. Good one, Naz. Yep, the Dipped Crusader. I don't want to ruin it for anyone who's going to run this, so cover your ears if you're going to run Temple and you've never done it before, okay? The story goes as this. The Battle of Emerald Meadows happens, okay? Good crushes evil. A lot of the evil forces retreat. Yeah, absolutely. Enamel paint. I mean, the paint wasn't around that much, so it was enamel, and it just was terrible. So, it says it right in the original folio that Thrommel is the prince of Friundi, and he's about to wed Jolene of Valuna, and that'll make them into one joint state. He gets kidnapped and disappears, and they don't know what happened to him. Well, in Temple of Elemental Evil, his body is on the 3rd level in stasis, right? And the group, and this is 86, 87 we're talking about now in our campaign. Andrea Winchester was on this, and Elaine Winchester was on it, and David Gradavis was on this. So we're talking about these characters like 7th level at that time. They free him, and he becomes, which a lot of it doesn't happen. It's not taken into consideration in From the Ashes anywhere. Just this 3rd edition Return to the Temple of Elemental Evil, they turned him into a vampire, and that doesn't make any sense. He was disguised as a vampire. This wasn't a vampire. It made no sense to me. But they really don't take into account what happened to him or if good ever released him. In our campaign, he did. So he becomes King of Furiandi. So he's a 15th level Cavalier Paladin. Now he marries Jolene, but we kept Furiandi and Valuna separate just for the entity purposes. But he's another Cavalier Paladin, not a fighter Paladin. Tom, my friend Tom, he's got an old character, Paladin the Golden. He's a fighter Paladin. And Corellia Crakespone, she's a dual-class fighter Paladin specialty priest of Uko. She runs the Order of Yuluk headquarters in the old Knights of the Holy Shielding building in the city of Greyhawk. So she's cloistered now. I took over as an NPC because the other friend Bill stopped playing about 10 years ago. So I took that character over. But her daughter is one of the other classes coming up, so we'll talk about that. So any questions about Cavalier Paladins or Fighter Paladins, what I did, and what do you think overall? I mean, I think it makes sense. It gives us some variety. I mean, there's a lot of dual classing going on of the Paladins because they're humans. So I kind of like it. And I think my players like it, and that's the important thing. You take their feedback and you work with them. You make sure that you do things that make sense for the campaign, and that's what we did. So let me pop up this real quick here. Okay. By the way, we got our logo up. I moved the logo right in the spot where Anna should be right now. Thank you, Brian Blumklotz. February 10th show. So next week is DM's Roundtable, 6 or 7 Dungeon Masters, all going to be talking about issues in the game. The week after that's the Super Bowl. We're off on a Sunday night. The week after that, Brian will be on talking about heraldry. This is the tip of the iceberg. Thanks, Rox. Appreciate it. I really appreciate that viewpoint. Brian will be on to show all the other stuff he's done for us. This is the tip of the iceberg. And so I'm showing this because we took that over as our logo on the site as well. It's beautiful. You're going to see this in an ad as well tonight. Can't wait to show you guys. Are all the characters on the right your full group? You mean the guy one scanning through? A lot of them are pulled off of Pinterest and other locations. Our character sheets... shoot, I don't have them up here. Frankie, our character sheets are really done really well. They have a picture on them. They're card stock. And we have a unique individual figure for every single one painted. It has to be metal. And you'll see that in all the groupings. But a lot of those are just representations of characters I pulled off because I wanted full-scale pics. Some of them are, but not all of them. Some, okay? Yeah. We have thousands of figures, and you'll get, if you watch us more, you're going to see, and I'm going to have a prelude Wednesday night, and I'm going to show you a whole bunch of figures for the group that we're doing. You'll see a whole bunch of stuff. But I like to have stuff scanning through for visual purposes too. Just to give you an idea. Now that's an AP. We'll talk about them. All right, so here we go. Best pick, one of the best picks ever in the Player's Handbook. The Paladin in Hell, right? Had to put it up. Great picture. Shows all that you need to know about a Paladin and a Paladin's abilities fighting hordes of evil by himself. Then the next guy we'll get to at the end of the night. So, all right, well, where do we go from here? You get to a point where we'll talk about that too. I love that. Phineas Fingers, great cartoon. Was in the Dragon magazine early on. You get to a point in the game where is it enough for you? And we got to the point where, and this has got to be the 90s, early 90s, one of the best RPGs on computer ever came out. And that was Baldur's Gate 2, right? Loved it. The NPC interaction in it was fantastic. I don't even think it surpassed. It's a game. Kingmaker is pretty good with Pathfinder and some of the other Pillars of Eternity is good too. Baldur's Gate 2 was well ahead of its time. Just the things it did. And if you ever had, let me get it. I know I got it up here. Give me 1 sec. Okay, here we go. All right. You ever had this, and you went through this book, right? They had some unbelievable classes in here and subclasses. And I was blown away by the level of detail on it. I don't know if this is a prelude to 3.5 or 3.0 or Pathfinder, but they did some unbelievable things in here. And one of the classes that really stuck to us was this gentleman here, and I'll scan through. Oh, I just went by him. My bad. I did it again. Sorry. Let's slow down. Keldorn Fire Camp, right? So in the Paladin sub of this, they have all these cool subclasses, right? And one of them two of them here, Inquisitor and Undead Hunter. So if you played in a game with Keldorn, he was kind of crazy. I mean, he put his own wife in the game in prison for she was cheating on him. And this is right in Baldur's Gate 2. And he throws her in jail, which I found so humorous. But he was a pure lawful good, but pure lawful. But he had some great abilities. And I said to myself, let's make this class will fit right into our 1E2E game. Why not take it and use it? So what we did was came up with the Inquisitor class ourselves. Right? And here it is. So the Inquisitor has a lot of abilities that, and it's not, we made it so, we took it one step further, and we said to ourselves, this class should be lawful, but there's no reason why we can't now pull this out into some other alignments. Now, lawful good, lawful neutral, and lawful evil. Now, lawful evil is obviously our NPCs, right? We don't play evil characters in our campaign, if at all possible. But we have some lawful neutral Inquisitors, and they're great, make great companions, because you know exactly what they're going to tell you, exactly what they're thinking. Plus, we utilize the lawful neutral aspect of Foltest hardcore in our game. And they're very, very strict. And they're very unwielding people. So, the Inquisitor has some abilities. It's a fighter paladin subclass. Let me put that straight. There's no cavalier paladin subclasses we have. So these two that we're using in our game, the Inquisitor and the Undead Hunter, are fighter paladin subclasses. Okay? So, Inquisitor has some cool abilities. Has the same specializations that a fighter paladin gets. Alright? They get these, depending on their alignment, they will get protection from, so if they're good, they get protection from evil. But if they're lawful neutral, they get protection from chaos. And if they're evil, they get protection from good. And they can detect evil if they're good or whatever, and smite evil as well. So they get the smite ability, which is 1 hit point per level, 3 times per day, declared on an attack. So we give them that extra ability. But then they have 3 really cool abilities that you would think an Inquisitor type character, and you think about an Inquisitor being, a law enforcer or a religious enforcer, or just out on his own, call it wreaking havoc on people because he enjoys it, right? He or she enjoys it. The best of all the 3 abilities is their Dispel Magic ability. And having an Inquisitor in the game, in your campaign, is a huge anti-mage buffing class. Because their Dispel Magic, which they can use a certain number of times per day based on their level, is double their level and ability. So if they're 5th, it goes off like it's a 10th level spell. If they're 12th, it goes off a 24th level. So imagine the havoc that does on buffing for mages, right? So we look at that as a way, an anti-mage. This is a perfect anti-mage class or an anti-cleric buff class. So they get that Dispel Magic ability. Hey man, say you get 3 of your fighters are advancing and they get a whole person spell on them. Now the Inquisitor can actually take that off if they're in the right position, right? They're immune to charm. That makes sense, right? And they get Detect Lie. That makes sense, right? Then they get True Sight, not True Seeing. A lot of people don't know this. True Sight and True Seeing are 2 different spells. True Seeing is the clerical version. True Sight's the illusionist version. True Sight's great for seeing invisible objects, all that. So you'd say, what's the difference between the 2? There's one big difference between the 2. True Seeing spell actually shows alignment of characters. This doesn't go that, True Sight doesn't go that far, because everything, you can see everything about a character, if they're out of phase or gaseous or whatever, you can't detect their alignment automatically with it. But they do lose some abilities, all right? They lose some abilities. They can't cast any clerical spells at all. They don't get them. They can't turn undead at all, because that's not their thing. And they can't cure disease. So, a little bit different. We've been using this class, oh my gosh, it's got to be since the mid to late 90s, when Baldur's Gate 2 came out, and we started messing around with it. And it's been very successful for us as a player character class and an NPC class. They fit very well into a campaign. Like I said, lawful good and lawful neutral aspects. They serve a purpose where their paladin hood's a little different, strained differently than a hardcore lawful good fighter paladin. They are out there for a purpose, whether it's enforcement of something or, to be the interrogator of the party when they capture people. They're very good at that. A lot of them carry instruments with them. So these people are not the nicest of persons. Even the lawful good people, if they have a cause against evil and they need information, well, they're going to get their information. So I love this Inquisitor, and like I said, if you ever, Beamdog has that Baldur's Gate 2 enhanced version, play it and just see Keldorn in there. He's a great NPC, really a cool character, and like I said, Brian Blumkolotz, who runs the Greyhawk Online Discord server and the Cannon Fire site on Facebook, has always said you get your best inspiration from other people and other places and other things. Well, that's where we got this from. I'm not going to say I made this up from scratch. We took it and made it our own, though, and turned it into a cool class. Now, so here's some of the Inquisitors we have in our campaign. The highest level one I could find is an NPC, and he's in a mercenary group, the Fighters of the Light, and they're mentioned from the Ashes box set. They're all worshippers of Foltest, all lawful neutral aspect of Foltest. And I must have, if anyone knows hockey from the 80s and 90s, his name's Glenn Wesley. So I made all the Fighters of the Light, a lot of the names. They only named one guy, Maga and Starand, and the Fighters of the Light. I named them all goons from the 80s and 90s in hockey, so it's pretty crazy. He's a 10th level Inquisitor, which is pretty nasty to have. Fighters of the Light have since expanded. Foltest is a huge, I don't know if you want to call it a threat, but they're a thorn in the side of a lot of player characters because their ethos is foreign to the good versus evil conflict. And Tritherian people especially hate Foltest people as much as they hate lawful evils. They hate lawful neutral Foltest people just as much. There's a lot of enmity there, and we play on that in our campaign, which is really cool. NPC, Catherine von Poppen, she's mine. She's in a group, the Night Stalkers out of our city of Altamira. She's 8th level. She's lawful good. So, and I play her good, but she has a short fuse. So she was had some bad things happen to her as a child, and if something she sees like oppression against children or something, she goes off. So it plays into she's very nice and dainty at one point, and then she goes and snaps, and the Inquisitor part comes out of a lawful good character. The rest of these, 3 of these are player characters. Elizabeta, our friend Bill the Master Crafters, she's a 7th level Inquisitor. Justina Witherspoon, she's in a group in the Shieldlands areas called the Shieldlanders. Even though she's from Keeland, she's 9th level Inquisitor. She's the highest level Inquisitor I could find from a player character in her campaign. Brought her from first. And she's lawful neutral. Desmond is one of Tom's, fairly new character, 4th level Inquisitor. And then one of Nax's, the Naz's favorites, Joanna Tessely, out of Hardby. She's a 5th level Inquisitor, very lawful neutral and very disturbed. She is a very disturbed person. Perfect for an Inquisitor. So Naz will vouch for her. She's on the Michael Baton level of disturbed. So that's one of the classes that we made for our campaign, 1st, 2nd level. gives you, and like I said, we had questions on someone who wanted just not to play rocks. I think just didn't want to play a lawful good anymore. Well, now here's your chance. You can play a lawful neutral aspect Inquisitor. Hey, have at it, man. Perfect for you. And they're not hardcore fighters. They're fighting. They get 3 attacks every 2 rounds at 7th level. They tend to fight weapon and shield. They can fight two-handed with a weapon, and they still get a specialization bonus, but they're really not a super hacking machine. They're like the fighter Paladin. They can hold their own. They should have a good armor class, but they're not your hardcore frontline cavalier or knight or type fighters. So, yes. And that's Tom, who has hopped on. His character, Desmond, carries pliers. But I think he's awful good, though, isn't he? But that's okay. Yes, so you get the idea. Anyone else with any questions or comments on the Paladin? A fun one, to say the least. So I'm just checking to make sure that Anna has not contacted me on my phone, just to make sure. Okay, so next class. Another step. Hey, Frank, hey, that's why I appreciate the follow. So we do this this is my 30th Gabbin, Frankie. Thanks. A lot of these are up, old ones are up on... Oh. All right, next song, I'm going to tell you. All right. First off, I would say if it's an Illithid, make it an Inquisitor. Wouldn't that make sense? Lawful Evil, Inquisitor. That would make sense to me. If you're using Illithids as evil NPCs or something, yeah, okay. So that's a good one. You got me. But yeah, absolutely. Inquisitors make a good sidekick to a high-level mage or cleric, like an evil specialty priest of Eas, or evil specialty, even though they're lawful. Evil specialty priest in the role, or one of the other evil deities. Evil Inquisitors make a good, and they also make a good archenemy too. It's very hard to do stuff to them with their immunity to charm and their, dispel magic ability, which is innate. So, and they get it, at certain levels, they get multiple ones on that. So, Frankie, thank you. You can do, we have a mirror up, Lord Space Gazumba on YouTube, because our Gabbin shows, because I'm a Twitch Prime, it only shows 60 days old vids. So go to the old Gabbins, probably just 4 or 5 or 6 of them up on here. But if you want to see real old ones, we have a YouTube mirror you can go to as well. Yes, I do a lot with arch enemies, Nick, so it's a good question. And I am actually getting close in the Thursday night game to showing an arch enemy that is going to come back, that was never killed off, that kind of faded into the darkness in the very near future, a major arch enemy. And I talk about that in old Gabbin as well. We had for Makarash, we used to have, going back to the 70s and 80s, we had the Claw, then we had Makarash, the Elf Mauler, then we had Puked, and then we had one after that. So we will see one. You're going to see one soon. It's going to make an appearance. And she's, I give it away. It's a female. It's female specialty priestess of Leviatar that we use. Nasty, right? You'll see her. She's going to make a reappearance shortly. And it's going to scare the shit out of my old characters, I guarantee you. So, yes, I love Arch Nemesis. And maybe she'll have next to her an Inquisitor of some sort. That's a great idea, because Inquisitors fit hand in hand with the Maiden of Pain, right? Perfect. So, Nixel, good idea. Thank you for that. You can, when my players blame someone, I'll say it was your idea. So, the next class, yes, and I am not at odds with pulling deities in that necessarily don't belong into Greyhawk, because remember we were playing in the early '80s and I didn't have The only deities I had were in Dragon Magazine articles. So, and Forgotten Realms uses a lot of the deities from the Finnish mythology as well. And so we have Ukko, we have a couple others. Leviathar's another one. We have Heisi, the god of evils, made an appearance. In a mix with other ones, we allow some of that. I don't allow some of the crazier ones, but there is some crossover there, and we pilfered one or two from Forgotten Realms that we needed. I pilfered the Stormlord, Tempest, right? Is it Tempest? Oh, my brain's shut off right now. We pilfered Talos. We pilfered Talos because we really needed a god of storms. It fits perfect in Harby, so we call it the Stormlord in our campaign. We pilfered the Red Knight. Lawful neutral aspect of combat and war fit perfectly in our campaign as well. So we pilfered a couple from Forgotten Realms that weren't major deities. So, but good question. I appreciate that. Like I said, please give me some little input there. Yes. Yes, Tom, absolutely. Here we go. Next class. Pilfer from Baldur's Gate 2. The Undead Hunter. Now, immediately, of course, now this isn't going to stand up, but immediately you think of Von Helsing, right, when it comes up. So, we did some things with this class. It's another fighter subclass. And there's pictures of what an Undead Hunter in our campaign looks like. And you can imagine that's an Undead Hunter. That's probably an Undead Hunter. Could be anything. This one. Not sure. That's an Undead Hunter, right? And the next one is definitely an Undead Hunter. So what we did was we made some more changes to give a little more flavor and variety, so we weren't working on the Paladin. Rocks, you're going to like this. Undead Hunter's alignments. Lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good, and lawful neutral. Okay? So they have a little bit of a different code than your Inquisitor especially, and your Fighter Paladin, your lawful gooder. Their goal is, and the reason I made lawful neutral allowed because I want Foltest to have access to this as well in the lawful neutral aspect, because they hate undead and it fits in our campaign. So that's why I allowed lawful neutral in this one for campaign purposes. So this gives you a variety of alignments you can play. And same thing, 2 weapon specializations. Here's a little different. One of them, they're required to use a crossbow, heavy or light, as one of their initial weapons. And they should specialize in that because we figured, getting with that large stakes, shooting stakes, cool, right? Heavy crossbow is probably the closest thing you're going to get to that in the D&D rule set. Here's some of their special abilities that you get with an Undead Hunter as opposed to a Paladin, a straight fighter Paladin. Okay? They get protection from undead to detect undead. They don't get protection from evil. But this is advantageous, and we saw this on Thursday night 2 weeks ago when Cordelia McManus, we have an Undead Hunter in our new first level group. We don't have a Cavalier Paladin, Fighter Paladin, or an Inquisitor, but we have an Undead Hunter. She gets innate protection from undead. Well, skeletons and zombies are mindless. They're not evil. So they're -2 to hit her still because they're undead. So I'm going to show you, Nixel, how I do that. If there's dominant. I don't think they're that dominant. I'm going to explain to you why. This is not really that dominant because their abilities are mostly catered to an undead. They can really are a backup fighter for a lot of things if they're not dealing with undead. And so they don't. Their specialization is the undead hunting, but they can still function as a backup fighter. They get their lay on hands ability, just like all 3 of them do. They turn just like a regular paladin does, level -2 for undead. They retain their immunity to disease and curing diseases, but it must be they can only cure diseases caused by undead. This includes, for them, the mummy rot ability that is still a curse. Special case here, okay? When fighting undead, here's where they change out a lot. Okay, undead hunters gain multiple attacks with their weapon of specialization. So, say they fight long. So you get three proficiencies at first. So they fight longsword. They specialize in it. Heavy crossbow. That's 3 slots. That's what they get at first. Come across undead. So Cordelia would have gotten 3 attacks every 2 rounds against an undead creature she was fighting. So if she fought a zombie, swung the first round and missed. I think this did happen once. The next round she'd get 2 attacks. Whereas a fighter paladin or a inquisitor would only get 1 attack every round until 7th level. Now a specialized fighter, we get the same thing, 3 every 2. So this is just against undead. Okay? They get the smite undead ability. They can use that where they can get 1 hit point per level damage. Has to be declared before they roll of the dice on the first attack of each of the round 3 times per day. They also get complete immunity to level and draining and undead effects at 9th level. So at 9th level, they can go in and they can fight vampires and specters without worrying about getting drained. Before that, they still have to worry about it. So, Geek Dice. Thank you so very much. I appreciate your participation. I appreciate the follow. Thanks. Try and catch us on Thursday night if you can, okay? And I'll have a Prelude event on Wednesday. If you can catch us, so be it. Thank you so very much, man, for hopping on tonight. And thanks for letting me know you're running. Have a good one. So, yes, they are undead. But what I'm saying is this, Nixel, they're not evil. They're not evil. Mindless undead like zombies and skeletons are not evil. So a paladin does not get their protection from evil against them. But an undead hunter gets protection from undead. So that's the difference. So they get the protection against evil undead and neutral undead. And there's a fair amount of neutral undead you can think of. Like crypt things. Yes. So, yep. So the undead hunter has that advantage over paladins, fighter paladins, and inquisitors. Whereas all undead, no matter what their alignment is, they're protected. They get the undead's -2 to hit them. Specialty class, okay? Also, when fighting undead, and did I miss it? Their crossbow becomes keen. Paladins fight all evil. True. They do. Absolutely fight all evil. But if a paladin is, and of course they do, but if a paladin's fighting a skeleton, just talking about technically, they'll want to slice skeletons and summon undead, absolutely. But the skeleton is normal to hit the paladin. If the skeleton's not -2 to hit the paladin, because they're neutral. They're mindless, they're neutral, they don't have alignment associated with them. Whereas the undead hunters, they get the skeletons -2 to hit them. That's the advantage I'm saying. But I agree, paladins are going to want to slay all undead as well. Absolutely. But, the neutral undeads, like skeleton warriors are neutral. Most skeleton warriors are not evil. They're neutral because they're circlet controlled and they're forced. So an undead hunter gets an advantage against them over a paladin as well. Another case where a very powerful undead is a neutral alignment. Right. And evil, yes, absolutely. The undead hunter is very specified and specialized in our... Hey, Fraley. Jump in on this. We got some fun discussions going on. Seeing if Anna has made it. Anna was really stuck at LAX. Her mother was flying in from Europe. The flight got delayed, and I guess because of the TSA and all these issues, there's delays all over the place. She wanted me to say, I'm sorry I couldn't make it on. I was like, no big deal, Anna. Come on. Family comes first. It's not a big deal. So, it's all good. And and we're running pretty well. I'm getting some good questions, which is great. So, the crossbows are keyed against undead. So, they crit on a 19 or 20 instead of a 20 in our game when they fire crossbows at undead, just because that's what they're set to slay. Kind of a Van Helsing thing when you think about it. Now, they don't get spells, okay? But they get spell-like abilities at each level. Now, if you remember 2 weeks ago on Thursday night, anyone watching, invisibility to undead 1 time per day. If you remember what happened, Cordelia, Walt's character, cast this, and it lasts like 6 rounds. Cast that spell and ran right by all the skeletons and zombies coming into the keep to figure out the source of the evil. Ran out and took on the necromancer herself on a one-on-one combat, which was really brilliant on his part of playing that. So that's the spell they get. These are 1 time per day, and each level they add a spell. So invisibility undead. Sun Scorch for 1 time per day at 2nd. Hold Undead at 3rd, 1 time per day. Free Action 1 time per day at 4th. A lot of these spells can be used on against non-undead as well. Sun Scorch is can be used all the time outside during the daylight against anything, really. Just does maximum damage against undead. Hold Undead, Sunrise or Searing Light 1 time per day. A very nasty spell, Sunrise. Cloak of Bravery or Negative Flame Protection 1 time per day at 6th. Protection from undead 10-foot radius at 7th. So you can get some of your friends in that. Soul Searing Orb at 8th, 1 time per day. And the nastiest of them all, False Dawn at 9th, 1 time per day. That's weak. I'm sorry. The last 2 are weeks. My bad. Last 2 are weeks. Soul Searing Orb and False Dawn 1 time per week. False Dawn is a brutally nasty spell. It's a Sun Sphere spell. It was created for Pelor, Foltest, all the sun deities. False Dawn is way nastier than Sunrise. Sunrise is single target. False Dawn's area effect. So this class is defined in neither. The Inquisitor and the Undead Hunter are defined. The Inquisitor and the Undead Hunter are defined they were out of Baldur's Gate 2 as subclasses of Paladins, and we loved them so much. And that game came out in the 90s. Like I said, if you want go back to a nostalgic game with unbelievable NPC interaction, go get to Beamdog and go download the Baldur's Gate 2. It's brilliant. It's fantastic. It takes place in Forgotten Realms. Don't care. It's brilliant. And Keldor Firecam, like I said, is the Inquisitor who is in that. And you can play an Inquisitor and Undead Hunter as a player character. Yes, well, not the first one. Baldur's Gate 1's good. 2 is unbelievable. If you're bored ever, play it through and play it slowly and play as many NPCs as you can play, because they all have sub-stories. Keldorn's is hysterical. Keldorn actually finds out his wife is cheating on him, and puts her in shackles in a dungeon. And it's great. So try. It's funny. So the Undead Hunter came out of there, and I built this up, gave it abilities. No, we consider this Nick. So we still consider this 1E, 2E. This Baldur's Gate book, 2, second, still second because it's not a prestige class. Okay, it's not where they go and you're so many levels in Paladins, and then you switch your class. It's not a prestige class at all, like 3 and 3.5. It's its own class from first. So you're an Undead Hunter from first. You're an Inquisitor from first. It's 2nd edition still. It's right on the edge before 3rd came out. But it's 2nd edition. And that's why I love playing it too. Because everything is brought up. I mean, you have barbarians, you have monks, you have cavaliers, you have all different sorts of rangers, all different sorts of thieves, all different sorts of bards, all different sorts of fighters. They have an archer in here that's cool too. It's a ranger subclass, and it reminds me of our Leonard Lakofka archer. And that's one I played through as an archer, and it's nasty. So highly recommend it. And if you have any questions about it as you're playing, I'd be more than happy to help you out on that too. So the Undead Hunter was ripped off from Baldur's Gate 2. I'll admit to that, and then I built it up. But here's the note. Intelligent undead will be able to sense an undead hunter's presence and will concentrate upon his or her complete destruction above other party members if possible. So, hey, Rox, see you, man. Thanks for hopping on, and I'll talk to you soon as well, too. So the undead hunter is gets a lot of hurt on him, and mass undead there's intelligent. So that ghouls, they're kind of mindless, but gas, race and up. mummies. They're all intelligent, and they're all trying to get rid of this undead hunter. So, see you either Wednesday or Thursday night, Brox, or Thursday night. So, I like the class, and here's some undead hunters we have. We talked about Cordelia McManus. She's first level. Walt is playing her brilliantly. It's a double whammy. Cordelia is an undead hunter. Her brother is a quasi elementalist, which is a spellcaster. It's very with energy spells and radiant spells is very attuned to taking on undead as well. So it's a 1/2 undead punch. Solegna, one of Mark's 6th level undead hunter, came from the Shieldlands and now is adventuring down in Harby. Very good. What's the book code for Baldur's Gate 2? It's a verse. You mean this book? What's the versus book code for it? Ow. Well, I just look for Shadow of Am. It's a perfect guide. It says BioWare Dungeons and Dragons on it. It's versus books. Okay. Let me see if I have something on here. HU. I don't know if that's it or not. Nah. Here's the code here. How's that? Does that help? See if you can find that. All right. This book is great. And I'm going to tell you why, Nixel. We'll diverge here. I mean, classes. Look, Druid and all its subclasses. Mage, all its wizards. Thieves. I mean, it is great. And it has a good walkthrough in it. It has a good story thing. And also has a ton of monsters in here. And a boatload of magic items in the back that are great. And a lot of these magic items I pulled into my game as well. So, like I said, I'll take from good sources on stuff. But magic items are unique to that game. That we've added them, a lot of them into our game. So, worth it, worth playing at least one time playing through a part of it. And you'll actually get NPCs fighting with each other. If you get Viconia, she's the dark elf. She starts neutral evil, and you get Aerie and Viconia, and they hate each other, and they go at each other, and they yell and scream at each other. It's hysterical. So a good thing to have happen. All right, so Liesel Abdalis. Liesel Abdalis is one of Herbie the White's kids. So she's an undead hunter. Okay? So Herbie has three children. One's an archer. One's a Paladin Cavalier. And that's Hessler Abdalis. And one is an undead hunter, Liesel Abdalis. So that's his 3 children from the White Tower. That's how old that character is. That they've actually grown up. That's how long we've been playing. It's kind of scary when you think about it. Samanda Crakespone. Now, I talked about Corellia Crakespone, who's a fighter paladin / specialty priest of Uko. Samanda's an NPC of mine. She's in the group, the Omega Patrol. She's an undead hunter. She's the highest level one we have in the game. She always had one of those early 2000 phases, talk to the hand. She always says that to people. Talk to the hand. That's girl talk, I guess. But she's lawful good undead hunter. And they have their place in the game. So when they're fighting against non-undead, they fight just like a fighter paladin would. Normal attack, sort of no different. They have some spell abilities. Free action's great against stopping hold person spells. Searing Light's a great spell. You can cast that on anything, So some of these spell effects will work against non-undead. So it's not like they're completely useless against evil creatures. They're just not getting -2 on the, against evil. It's just undead that they get those benefits from. But everyone loves putting undead in their campaign, and I do, and that's why it makes sense for us to have it. So that's why we have the undead hunter. Something really nice and nasty to really throw up against them. So let me just see something here. Tom, I'm online. I'm online, right? I think Tom's just froze on him or something. I haven't dropped any anything at all. So okay, yeah, Tom may have just chunked or something. So, or that was earlier. All right, so Anna's typing something in now. We'll see what that says in the Discord, and we'll see maybe because I still have one I haven't discussed, and it's not a player character. Okay, cool. It's yours. It's your DSL probably. It looked like she was typing something in. So, I have a class that we have not talked about, and this class is not for player characters, right? So let me get my notes out here. Throw up. I love this. This is out of an old dragon. Oh, there's a picture of him right up there right now. That's a picture from the cover of the article. Here we go. Dragon 39. I believe it's in Best of the Dragon Volume 2 as well, which is hard to find. Here's the cover. Good got you down? Try this for evil. The Anti-Paladin NPC. And by Gregory Laking and Tim Mesford. So no Leonard Lakofka on this one. Okay. Don't want to overuse this. Please. This class does not, you do not want to overuse. You want to throw this guy out once in a blue moon as a baddie. And there's ways to use your anti-paladin to full effect. I'm going to tell you a couple stories. I know a lot of people came on late and they didn't see the entry screen. Anti-paladins are like they're chaotic evil. They're exact opposite of what you would think a wholesome, lawful, good paladin is. They're not stand and deliver and come out. And they're not that kind of way. They're very sneaky, cowardly beings for the most part. But they can come into you with like a very pleasant exterior. This is a true story. I had an adventuring group. It was the slavers, the Ulick Defenders Against Slavery. So it's some fairly high-level characters. They're probably 7th level at the time. Nope, they are chaotic evil next level all the way, CE. The exact opposite of your paladin, your lawful good. At least in first edition, they were. So, comes across a very attractive female in armor, and this is the story I told in the front panel. Her name was Anastasia. She came out, and the group had just had some combat. Was resting around their campfire, and she came up very friendly. Oh, I'm the local lord of the land. You all look real beat up. Let me help you. You know, did some lay on. You know, they can do lay on hands. And I brought along with me my favorite thing to make me feel better: tea and crumpets. So she fed them tea and crumpets. So everyone ate them, but one character, and I think it was one of Alan's. It's Alan's paranoid against everything. No, Death Knights are chaotic evil as well too, man. Yeah. So, yes. So the tea and crumpets, and they ate it and all. Nothing happened because nothing bad happened. Well, turns out that she was the anti-paladin all along. And when they got in her lair, there was nothing really. She had one henchman alive in her lair. That was it. Everything else was all sorts of undead and automatons and stuff. And it was a death trap. Well, when they got into her lair and they got to a certain point, there was this weird haze, gaseous haze. And they're like, what the hell is this? This is probably some bad kind of poison. Well, it wasn't really poison, but it was a catalyst. So the deal with... They are the Death Knight... I'm sorry. The Anti-Paladin is the experimenter par excellence. Exactly. Tea and crumpets. Perfect. Now you understand, being from the UK. They are the experimenters par excellence in poisoning. So, they ate the tea and the crumpets, they drank the tea, and the gaseous part of this was the third part. It was a 3-part poison. So anyone who did all 3, so she was immune because she didn't do all 3 of them. So it didn't affect her, so she could actually come right in and fight in this area, right? So that all of them but Alan's character had to make the save from poison or die on the spot. And they lost a couple characters right then and there because the 3-part poison took effect. And it's some kind of really great thing when you think about it. I can do this in my campaign now with an anti-paladin. And it can be long-term because, food takes a while to get through your system. So you make the gas the last part of it, right? Food, drink, that's the liquid, the solid, and then the gaseous part. Hit them when they're somewhere in a keep or whatever. Boom. 3-part poison, and you got them, right? So anti-paladins, this article, are the sneakiest mofos there are. They have the thief backstab ability as well. Think about that. So they have an armor, but they're able to backstab as thieves. They're very sneaky. They're very corrupt. They're very, it's as chaotic evil as it gets. It doesn't get any more chaotic evil than this. Them and the Deathmaster, and I said this last week, are the 2 nastiest NPC classes that there are, in my campaign at least. So they have some special abilities besides that. Okay, the poisoning, the backstabbing, but they have special charisma, and you only roll a 4-sided die when you generate them. It'll be either 17, 1, 2, 17, or 18. They're the 4 charismas they're going to get. Either they're hideously ugly, 1 or 2. 17, they're very attractive. And 18, they're very beautiful with this enamoring effect. And they have a 25% to have this super exceptional, charming, enamoring ability. So, yes, there's a lot of... You can use these... we can do it next soul. We can do an alignment discussion. Absolutely, I'd be all in for that too. Down the road, that would be great. I'd be all in for that, man. Your idea, sure, we can do that. We'll talk about in announcements our schedule for the next 3 weeks on the Gabbin show. But we could absolutely do an alignment discussion. We could, and you know what? We can have an alignment discussion a little bit next week too, and we'll talk about that. What's going on next week? In a little bit in a smaller form, but we're gonna have other people on. Trust me, you see other people says my ugly face. So yeah, absolutely. I love ideas. All right, so they're immune to disease, but they're a carrier. So when they go to lay on to heal people for disease, they're actually giving them disease. I think that's freaking hysterical. But they're immune to disease themselves. They can lay on hands, but they can also cause wounds. Lay on cause wounds hands too. They can do both. So they can be sneaky about that too. They get a protection from good aura instead of protection from evil. So they're protected from that. The key thing to do with the anti-paladin, and like I said, if anyone needs the article, I would be more than happy to share it with you. Instead of having a Holy Avenger, they have Unholy Reavers, which is the exact opposite of what a Holy Avenger does. So cool, right? You want them to not be a one-shot character. You want to really build them up somehow and make it really feel it. So cool. Well, that's good to know that it's a smite ability, and we do some smiting with, like I said, with the Inquisitor gets a smite and the Undead Hunter gets a smite against Undead. But yeah, okay, so it is a spell-like effect. That's cool, Naz. I appreciate that update on that. See, because like I said, I know nothing about how they treat these classes in 5e, and I appreciate you giving me a little how it evolved. That's cool. Use these guys to really make it someone feel it. That it's coming and like, oh my god, I got you. Here's another quick story. So my friend Tim, I DM'd it. I played in his campaign. In his campaign, if anyone has ever heard of City State of the World Emperor, there was Invincible Overlord and World Emperor. There was these big Judges Guild city states, and they had all these estates around. Oh my gosh. First level character, second level character. I mean, that's cool though. I mean, that's what happens with massive crits, man. I mean, just it doesn't matter what it is, it's going down, on a massive crit. All right, first thing, I'll tell the story up top. You see the cartoon that's Phineas Fingers, the Phineas Treasury. This is the first showing ever of an anti-paladin. This is Grond. Yes, like the Grond from Lord of the Rings, the Byron, but his name was Grond. And let me go back to it real quick. He has some funny lines in the Phineas Treasury. You should, if you can, get a hold of it. It's really comical. He says on here, let's see, I'm chaotic evil. I'm probably all die, but I'm chaotic evil and don't care, and I'm here to kill Paladin. So, and he charges the Paladin in this. Played pretty stupidly, but it was kind of a joke in the Phineas Fingers treasury in the cartoon. But it's really comical. So if you can get a hold of the Phineas treasury, it's really hard to find. But if you go online, I think someone has them all in PDF. You can just download them. Phineas Fingers, you should be able to find it real easily. So Tim has the city-state of the World Emperor, and he has all these estates where like the nobles come from outside. And we had our own plot of land, our group. And I was playing, Walt was playing, Mark was playing, and Tim was DMing it. And I had Dervilia, who was a cavalier, lawful neutral cavalier, and Kixana was kind of like my Gazama knockoff Fire Clark mage. And they went to this banquet, and Kixana went in. He was kind of like, he kind of thought of himself as like the Batman type, like the protector of the people kind of guy he was. And he was in looking around and stuff, and this really nice guy goes, "Hey, Kixano, great to meet you. I've heard all these things about you." Very cordial and stuff. And after we're leaving, one of Tim's NPCs goes, "Man, you were getting really buddy with Zor, weren't you?" And he's like, "Yeah, he was a great guy and all." He goes, "Yeah, he's an anti-paladin." And I was like, he played him to a T. He played the guy right to a T. I would never know. I got a neutral good character, and the guy's being so nice and cordial. He's an anti-paladin. That's what you should do. You should really make him a surprise to them. And they're kind of loners. They really don't like to play well with others, but they're great antithesis and arch nemesis. So, like I said, the anti-paladin is something to really sink your teeth in. Mess around with as an antithesis in your campaign. If anyone wants any of the article references or any of my suggestions, I'd be more than happy to help you out with that. So, okay, well, we're through an hour and a half here. We got half to go. Anyone have any questions so far? I really appreciate everyone jumping in. I know it was kind of a bizarre night with, it looks like Anna is still not home. From a message, and that happens, but she'll be on next week with her. So I'm going to, everyone sees in the spot where I have a guest our new heraldry symbol. So here's what's going to happen the next 3 weeks on our Gabbin shows. Next week, we're going to have a DM's roundtable. We're going to have at least, I'm hoping, I've gotten confirmations from them, 6 dungeon masters from different 5e, 1e, 2e, Pathfinder. We're going to have all of them. And we're going to have us all on. And we're going to have a round of questions. And then we're going to have open questions. We're going to have a discussion on the game of Dungeons & Dragons itself. And we'll get some feedback on some things. I got some questions pre-written up for everyone. And then it's a good thing just to get out problems with players, problems in the game, balance issues that someone brought up. And that'll be next week, our Dungeon Masters Roundtable. Right now, I have confirmation from myself, of course, Marco, my friend DM Brian, Anna Meyer, who DMs herself, Ian from Forsetti D&D will be on as well, and Will from Return to the Bandit Kingdoms will be on, and I have one more European who I've asked, and he's going to give me yes or no. I would like it to be 7, but I can live with 6. So we're going to have our DM's roundtable next week, and that'll be fun. All right, and that'll be the last one for the month. That's between the championship games and the Super Bowl. This week of the Super Bowl, the Sunday of the Super Bowl, we'll be off. Sunday night, it'll be Super Bowl parties everywhere. We'll be off that Sunday. So 2 weeks, there'll be no Gabbin that week, okay? But the week after that, Brian Blomklotz, who was on talking last week, who has this heraldry symbol right in front of me. This is the tip of the iceberg. I am dying to show. As you know, the Northern of Ulick in my campaign has sub-areas. We have sub-areas of Greyhawk City. We have sub-areas of Slean. We have sub-areas of the Shieldlands, Vesty Forest. He's working on some heraldic sub-symbols for all of them for our knighthood. I've taken this as my main picture on our Lord Gazumba site now as opposed to the Lord Gazumba figure. It's a little more nicely detailed. So he'll be on the 10th, February 10th, and we're going to go over heraldry, the history of heraldry, symbols, art, the creations he's made for us, some surprises on heraldry. He's working on another thing too that is Naz and any other people in the Europe knighthoods will know. He's working on even a collar chain for ceremonial purposes for our knighthood, which is so awesome. So some great things I can't wait to share with you all on that show on the 10th. That's in 3 weeks. Okay. Now, here we go. So, everyone knows about what's coming up on March 23rd. If you don't, you can just say no in chat. But Saturday, March 23rd, I have been working on this for months, and I've done this, and I'll say it was my doing, my creation. But Marco did this trailer. We have coming up a 16-hour... Yeah, you know. You're playing in it, you know. We have a 16-hour mega stream event Saturday, March 23rd, starting at 8 o'clock in the morning and running all the way through... Now, well, I don't think Mark's going to do that in his game. All the way through to midnight that night. And there's 3 channels right now. Return of the Bandit Kingdoms will go on at 8 a.m. to 12. Mark, my Ohio group with Jacob Jansen's in that group that run every other Monday. They're going to run from noon to 4 p.m. the storyline. Shane from the Greyhawk channel will be running from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And I will be running from 8 p.m. to midnight to finish up the story. Here we go, guys. This is the first hour. It's a minute 48. I'm going to show you all now the teaser vid for the 16-hour Greyhawk mega stream, Stories of the Orb of Dragonkind. Please enjoy this. What do you think? Mark made that up all himself, and I think he did a fantastic job. And we've been told that we're working on even getting that shown at GaryCon in the beginning of March. So that is our trailer for our mega stream event. It's going to be all for St. Jude's Research Hospital. Any cheers we get during that time, any donations we get, it's all going to go to charity. It's going to be a charity stream, all for Greyhawk and all for trying to get the Greyhawk out there, to try and get noticed by Wizards of the Coast and get us going with allowing Greyhawk content to be once again be published. So this was my idea to get that going, and hopefully it'll go well. So that was it. And if anyone has any comments or questions about it, it was he did a very good job. It's going to be stories of the Orb of Dragonkind. It'll bounce around stories. Each DM will have his own style, his own play, and it'll start at 8 a.m. and run all the way through until my group runs at the end at 8 p.m. Thanks, Tom. It's awesome. Mark did such a great job with that. I'll run it at the end of the show again, too. I'll run it at the end of the show as well. But he did such a fantastic job with it. It was difficult for him to put that all together in such a short time. We need to get this going because we're like 2 months out, so we got to really promote this. We want to have record viewing audiences for this because we want to raise money for charity too, and we want to have fun playing it. And I've already got. Hopefully, we don't have another issue with. Orb of Dragonkind is right out of the original Dungeon Master's Guide, man. There's 8 of them. Nixel, there's 8 Orbs of the Dragonkind. They're all old school first edition Greyhawk. Absolutely. You're thinking of the Dragon Lance or something. The Orb of Dragonkind's D&D first edition Greyhawk. Right in the old big red creature Dungeon Master's Guide. So I thought Adepticon was the week after, Jeff. Yeah. So the 23rd is going to be that, and we are so ecstatic about it, and I'm looking forward to that. And so I got Anna as it is the same time. Well, that stinks. So Mark's gonna be at your house, and you're not even gonna be there. Oh, okay. So you're busting balls again. All right. I was hoping you were busting stones. So I will say this. Got some subscribers. Going to see if there's some gaps with some players or some people who regulars, and see if we can get some people in to this event. Okay. You know who you are. We're going to try to get some people in here and there, okay, to participate in this if you're able to. All right? That's what I'm going to make an attempt to do. I mean, we got some really great people who have watched for a long time and participate, monthly with subscriptions. We're going to see what we can do. I'm giving you my promise to try and do that, to have everyone have fun with this, because we really want to raise a lot of money. We're looking for it, even expand it to 20 hours, and we're looking for a UK current streamer, because setting up the equipment last second is not going to work. But we're looking for a UK or European EU streamer who knows Greyhawk, maybe to start at 4 a.m. and make it 20 hours. We'll see if that happens. But we're going to try, and I just cannot wait. I mean, of course, that's 2 months down the road, but I really, we're planning for it. We got a big meeting on it next Saturday, all the DMs in it, and we're going to get that start getting the storyline worked out, and who's going to do what and all. I will say this, I'm going to plan on a massive fight with massive creatures that in D&D lore, that it's going to be nasty. Bill the Master Crafter, is making some custom terrain for it already. So we're going to have all new terrain no one's seen before out. And hey, Just, thanks a lot, man. Thank you. Really appreciate it. So we're going to have new terrain. We're going to have some new monsters that he's painting. We're going to have, it's going to be the Iron Brigade, the biggest, and you guys have not seen this group yet because they were in Expedition to Ruins of Greyhawk. We have not run them since then, and we haven't streamed with them. Oh, I really appreciate it. No, not we don't 3D print stuff. I have some stuff I just got that WizKids made primed, and my crafter Bill's painting them for me. You'll see. I got some nasty stuff coming. It's going to be a blast. So, Just Toxic, thanks a lot, man. Once again, I appreciate that. And if you're like Greyhawk content, hey, this is where to be. Old school as well. This is where to be. Like I said, there's not very many of us old school broadcasters out there, but I try and do my best here. So I know that Anna is so the Iron Brigade's going to happen. You have Marcus Camara. Bill's got a Cavalier Paladin. He's like 12th level. Sailing Shadow Moon Clark Necromancer. I have Kieran Winchester and Elijah Winchester the 4th. Mark has Railstone Gradavis. Big names characters in Greyhawk lore. They were the group that freed Tensor in Return of the Eight. They were the ones that finished Expedition to the Ruins of Greyhawk just recently. That was right before we started streaming. And Anna has agreed to play Mariel, who is basically the henchman, friend, in trainee, even though she's like 13th level mage of... yeah, that's it, Naz. Yeah, I got a funny story off that, too. She's going to play Mariel, who's the trainee of Jalarzi Salavarian. She's right in Vecna book, and Vecna Lives and Return to the Eight. So we actually have a canon character that's being played in with the group as well. And Tensor will be there. Morning Kingdom will be there. It's going to be a fun blast. I'm going to do this right. And that'll be on March 23rd. So we're going to be running. I'm trying to get the other channels to start running this as well, but we're going to run this at get this at GaryCon. All right, so here's the deal. You guys haven't met this group yet. So Marcus Camara, Bill's character, and Kieran Winchester, my monk NPC. She's actually a monk, but she's more of like a carefree type of monk. Have had a child together, and there's fighting going back and forth. It's still not named. It's still not. Marcus says, I'm breeding out the Winchesters. He wants it to be a Camara, and she's like, no, it's a Winchester child, and that's going on back and forth. So, two lawful goods fighting over, heritage of the kid. So you may see a lot of that night too, which is kind of funny. So I'm looking forward to it, definitely. All right, so the rest of the week. Wednesday night, since we're going to start a new 2 adventures with Thursday, I'm going to do a Prelude update, 1 hour max, 8 p.m. Eastern, 8 to 9. Has some new terrain up a little bit. Not the keep's still up, but in the front, how I change that out. There will be 2 missions again. The group will get split up, and we'll go over what has happened so far. Now I have 18 characters in the new first level unnamed group still. There's 4 characters that are made it to second level. The thug, the straight thief, and the 3 specialty priests are all now second level. So we're finally getting some levels up. So there'll be 2 new missions. We'll talk about that on Wednesday night. And that'll be a quickie one, just an hour long. Back to Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Again, we'll continue with, this will be adventure number 842, Beginnings Part 3. And the unnamed adventuring group, one of the 2 adventures we'll have. There'll be a lot of talking, RPGing, role-playing inside with some of the high-level characters. You may get a glimpse of that arch nemesis at some point on Thursday night. We'll see how it plays out. But you may actually get a glimpse of her, which I cannot wait to show you and everyone and who this is. So that's what's scheduled. And then, like I said, next Sunday, we'll go right into our new Gabbin 31 DM's Roundtable. So, I know we're 15 minutes early from the end time, but does anyone have any final questions about Fighter Paladin that we discussed, Cavalier Paladin that we discussed, the Inquisitor, the Undead Hunter, and the Anti-Paladin? They're the 5 classes we discussed. 4 of them are player character classes. One's an NPC-only class that we went over tonight. And if you have any questions about them, if you want the details on them, the Inquisitor and... No, I'm not going to do that next with this arch nemesis. She's going to make an appearance that she's here and back, I think. One of those kind. Like on the other side of the river where the keep is after something goes on, she's just going to stand out there smiling by herself, maybe. Something like that. And I want to put the fear in. And Tom, I think it's Tom's birthday, Thursday night. So Tom, you don't want me to, come on. Do you really want a 16th level specialty priestess to kill first levels? There's no fun in that. There's no sport in that, right? No, we're gonna do this the right way. So yeah, it'll just scare the crap out of some of the players. I guarantee it. No, I'm not going to be that cruel. So these, the Undead Hunter and the Inquisitor are on one page. So I can, I can give these down and once someone rocks ask for them, I'm going to send them to them, no problem. I mean, it just gives you the subs on them. Just take your Paladin out of the player's handbook, with whatever changes, minor changes you made to it, like specialization we added, and then just pop these right in. You have 2 more classes about it. Yeah, all right. So I'm going to say this about Thursday night, and that's the bits that got sent, Nixel. We had 3 people cheer. Jacob Jansen was one of them. Tiborius Knight was another, and Avatar Wrath was another, and that was 4. Every time we get 500 bits, we assign what's called a special hero point, and I'll just explain that real quick to everyone. We use the hero point system as it is. So, and the max you can ever get is your level, your highest level if you're multi-class. So right now, everyone after they venture the first time, they have 1 hero point that can be used to modify die roll before the die is rolled, like a hit roll, a saving throw, damage even. They can't be applied on other individuals' rolls, just your own. And they're called hero points. So like if you have a save versus death and you really want to make that save and you have 2 hero points, your second level, you may use it. Every 500 cheer that we get, the audience, can give it to whoever you want in the group and give them a special hero point. These hero points are above and beyond the standard hero points we use in the game. And it saved a lot of lives on Thursday night, a lot of uncritical hits and things like this. The assigned hero points from you the audience are very special in the game. They can be used after a roll is died. Okay? After a dice roll is made, even a baddie can be applied to their roll. So you can undo a critical with it, but they have to be assigned from the audience on a cheer. So we had 4 of them given out on Thursday, and a lot of them got used. Like 3 got used that I can recall, because 1 had one from a previous week, and 2 of those got used right then and there. 1 character would have gotten put in the negatives and probably gotten killed from the critical, and she was able to undo the critical and just turn it into a 19, a normal hit. So they can be used in all sorts of it. Say you fail your save, and you take a nasty effect, you failed your save by 1 or whatever, you can apply that hero point after the dice rolls made. Go, oh, I made it. Or you roll a 19 on an arch nemesis, and you have a special assigned hero point from the audience. You can turn it into a crit. I want you guys to participate, and it's going great. So, if you want to be that cruel, and you want to Nixel, and you want to cheer 1,000 for me to nerf a positive 1, you can have at it, man. So, but I want you guys to feel part of the game, and thank you so very much. And we've been on for now a little over 6 months, and we're almost to 460 followers. It's been fantastic. I love all you guys and gals. It's been so much fun. It's really breathed life into this 51, soon to be 52-year-old body of mine, since I've been playing since I was 12 years old. This is our 39th year of the campaign. We believe it's the longest ongoing Greyhawk campaign in existence. And Jeff will get a chuckle out of that after what he sent me last night and this morning about the Instagram from the guy from Canada who said he had the longest one in a vid from October 2017, and we had him by 2 years. And that's why, the irony is, that's why I got into this, was I got to get out of the shadows finally and do this. So that's that was fun. Next, I appreciate that on that. But does anyone have any final questions before I call it an evening? I'm going to yeah, that was almost, man. It's like yesterday though. I remember started logging adventures in 1980. And the first adventure, and it's on the map. So when you see the Anna map on Thursday nights and Wednesday nights Prelude, Outpost number 1 was built around that time frame for the Order of Ulick, and it was called Battle of Outpost number 1, and it's the number 1 first logged adventure we ever did. And I DM'd it, and Tim and Walt, Walt sits right there. They played in it when we were all young kids, like freshmen, sophomores, and I think Tim was in 8th grade at the time, and that was the first one. And now Thursday night's number 842, and that's how far we've gone And think about that. I mean, just 842 adventures over 39 years is crazy. It's like 20 some a year, but that's how long we've been playing. And that's, you keep your friends together. Gaming is a way to keep your friends together, and that's why it's so important to do it. And that's why our wives all understand it, because we're not out at a bar somewhere. If we're drinking, we're playing D&D and doing it. And how much more nerdy can you be than that, than doing that, right? So thanks, Tom, for hanging in there. Does anyone else have any other questions, comments? So great night. Thank you. This was delving into the Paladin. Next week, DM's Roundtable, Off, and Gabbin, and then the week after that, Heraldry with special guest Brian Blumklotz, and that'll be in 3 weeks. So Wednesday night, Prelude, catch me on there, 8 p.m. Eastern time. That'll be an hour long. And then Thursday night will be a 4-hour session for our game. Week after that, Mark will be on as well again. So if anyone doesn't have any questions, I'm going to rerun our teaser trailer, then run the NBA thing and call it an evening. Thank you all for hopping on. Sorry I had to go solo. Had a little technical difficulty with guests tonight, but it was a good one still. And just remember this: doesn't matter the edition, doesn't matter how you play D&D, as long as you're playing and you're enjoying it, and Greyhawk's the way to go, in my opinion. Hey, that's what the most important thing is. So once again, I'm Jay, aka Lord Gazumba. Sorry, none of my companions are on tonight. Tom's the only one on the chat tonight, and Jacob Jansen's on from Mark's group. But other than that, I'm going to rerun the end trailer again, the new teaser vid, and then I'll run the NBA. See you all in a couple days. Have a good one, guys. See ya.
From the edge of the sea, from the edge of time, beckons a destination, ancient, hidden, forgotten. This is Harbor Town. Harbor Town is an all-new series from Miniature Building Authority, the leader in tabletop gaming scenery. Unique, flexible, and playable, Harbor Town will take your games to